Hey there. My name is Jacob Corey Gold, and I'm the host for All the Things Light. I'm happy to be here. The message is very, very simple. We need a reminder that we are the generation of the light. We need a reminder of realizing the opportunity of the great experience that we came from in being the light and how in this present state, we have an opportunity to bring that light here, the light of memory, the light of recall, the light that acknowledges that our experience is 100% of the light. And so all the things light is that opportunity. Whereas in the past, I did have a podcast called Killing Cliches. That was my introduction into just sharing, being someone that shares my profession. I spent 20 years teaching, and now I work in an environment where I have to speak all the time. I have to give my opinion, give my estimation. I have to negotiate on a daily basis. But this is none of that. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm not here to give an opinion. I am, though, here to share. I'm here to share of the great experience of the light that I have had throughout my life, even the picture wherein those words rest, all the things light. I took that picture in Barbados, sitting on one of three balconies of overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and I happened to look up and I saw this image of the sun, but there was a line going through it. So whereas you can't see it here, there will be other opportunities for me to show the entire picture. But this podcast is just that. We all have incredibly rich experiences with the light, either something that we would call serendipitous or by chance, or we live an intentional life of going after and realizing the experience to acknowledge the light in every opportunity, every interaction, every conversation. And that's where I'm on my way to. That's where we're on our way to. Because in as much as there are three basic principles that I'm coming from, my belief system says that love is creation's greatest idea. We are one. That means the listeners, that means those that don't listen, those that don't care to listen, those that believe the exact opposite of what it is that I'm sharing. We are one. And finally, we are the generation of the light. And so as I go through this experience, to share, my hope is to shed light on each of those principles that I just stated. Again, love is creation's greatest idea. I will elaborate in episodes to come. Um, we are one is the second principle. I do intend to elaborate on what I mean and what is meant by we are one. You mean those that would cause havoc and wreak havoc, and those killers and murderers, and those preachers, and those that shed and give those nuns and those priests. See, we have identified each individual in the term of form. I would venture and I offer that the light has no form. There is no form in light. I've said often, because like I said, I taught and I taught and worked in schools for 20 years, but um, in helping to describe what I mean by the light, in that it has no form, go into a room and turn a light on. See if that light says anything. The light is just on. See if you have a door open or a window open or something to where that light can seep into that area because the light has no form. And I'm talking about just the artificial light now. In terms of the artificial light, even that has characteristics of the light, but that is not the light. But turn a light on in a room and see, doesn't it find every nook, every cranny of that room? See, though, also that it's not saying a thing, it's just being the light. And so, my offering is to suggest that in being the light, being the generation of the light, we don't have to say a whole lot. We don't have to do a whole lot. We just have to be. One mantra that I've been saying to myself here lately over and over and over again: I do not have to do anything. I just have to be. I don't have to do anything. I just have to be. And there's a question that came up. I've had this, again, I've had an experience with the light all my life. In as much as I could articulate what it was, of course, I've grown up and I've matured in more and more words and by way of schooling, but the light has come and the light has articulated such to me, such that I know that I can experience this 24/7. I had a thought when I was a little boy, maybe 10 years old, and I had a thought of, and the thought came to me, it said 24/7. Um, I had such an experience of love, such an engulfing of the presence of the Spirit of the Most High God. And being and coming up in the church in the way that I did, there was a thought that came after, it was after one service, and I had such an incredible experience. Maybe I was dancing, maybe I was singing, maybe I was shouting, but whatever, maybe I was praying, whatever the experience it was, the thought came to me 24/7. And I began to question that thought. What do you mean? What does it mean 24/7? Now, this wasn't an audible thought that came from external. This came from within my innermost being, into my conscious, and said 24/7. And because I'm a questioner, my brothers will tell you that I do ask a lot of questions. I'm very inquisitive, but I began to question that thought. What do you mean 24/7? And the response came, there is a place where you can experience this love, this light, this truth 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I must have been 9 or 10 years old. And immediately I was like, oh, well, what in the world? That sounds exciting. But in as much as I was as young as I was, I thought that I needed validation. And so when I asked a few people, do you think there's a place in God, an experience where we can, be happy, be in love, be at peace 24/7? And the answer from the few people that I asked, not just then, but also as I got older, was, you know what? I don't think so. I venture to share with you that there is a place where we can experience light and love 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And that's just based on the concept of time and the concept of eternity. We are from light, experiencing light, the light of life, and we're going back to light. And so realizing that the answer that I found is a resounding yes. Well, where is that place of 24/7? That place of 24/7 is in the present. Being intentional about being in the present puts you in line to experience peace and love and joy all of the time. Now, that's not to say that there won't be experiences of sadness, but even in sadness, I can experience joy. I can experience the richness of this existence. Uh, Even if there's a letdown, that doesn't cause me to have a depression because I know where I came from. I know who I am presently, notwithstanding uh, an issue, a circumstance. My experience says that I still have joy. That although, and we can compare it to nature, although it may rain, although it may thunder, it may snow, but beyond those clouds, up above those clouds is still the light. That's the sunlight. Still not quite the light that I'm referencing here, but the opportunity is to call out those parallels, call out and acknowledge the fact that even in nature, rain doesn't stop the sun from existing. So a little rain in your life, a little heartache in your life does not stop joy from existing. And whereas those are fleeting moments and emotions, what is the constant? What is the eternal saying and speaking? The eternal is speaking in the present, there is fullness of peace. In the present, there is a fullness of joy. There are no degrees in joy. There's no a little bit of joy now, a little bit more later, a little bit. No, there is all joy in this experience. I wrote something down. Uh, I don't know if it was a few weeks ago, but most recently. But I wrote down a focus on the past produces depression. Focus on the future, anxiety. Only in the present is peace. As we go and as this podcast and episodes come and go, you'll learn, of course, that I am a writer. I love to write. I remember as a little boy praying and asking, I want to be a writer. I was writing these acrostic poems, and I was like, wait, that's not what I mean. And so I prayed. I was like, well, what? I want to be a writer. And in as much as in this latest work, I've written songs, I've written poetry. This latest notebook was given to me by a mentor of mine. You'll get a chance to meet her. I call her Mama D. But she gave me this book. And when I got home, I knew there was something I had to write more. I had to write more. But I hadn't written in a while. I hadn't written probably in some years. But as I began writing, the opening pages, I began writing at page after page. But the writings they didn't really have. They didn't look like a song. They didn't look like a verse or a poem. And so I began to question. Again, I'm very inquisitive. So I was like, what in the world is this? I'm questioning my innermost being because these thoughts are coming from within. They're not coming from, again, some external source. They're coming from within, from the source from within. And so as I'm writing these thoughts, uh, I began to question and ask, well, what is this that I'm writing? And so the first thought that came was no form, free form. You're gonna hear that a theme constantly as we go forward in this. Um, but it was like no form. I was like, oh, okay, that gave me the freedom to not have to think about a verse or a hook or some elaborate rhyming scheme. It gave me an opportunity just to write what I was hearing, and it didn't have to be so long or so short. It gave me an opportunity to write what I was hearing, and only that. And so that was my first experience with this new book, this new notebook. And so I began to I kept writing. And so I was still kind of inquisitive. I said, okay, this is no form, sounds good. It looks good. It's blessing my soul. It's coming from me, edifying me. And even those that I would share with, it would edify. So much so that I went back and I inquired. I said, well, what is this? And the thought came, these are meditations. And so the thoughts that I share, they are to be pondered. They're not to try to be figured out. I've learned here recently that there's an opportunity to not have to know everything about everything, not have to use my logical mind to say, let me figure this out. Let me figure out the chronological order of existence. Certain things we just have to be reminded of because that's the stamp that's on us. And so I don't have to figure out who my mama is. I love my mother. I don't have to go back and try to inquire, okay, how did she get here and who came before her? No, there's just the fact of being. Again, we're getting beyond doing to simply being. And we get to that place, then we can experience present. Then we can experience this peace and not fleeting moments of peace, but peace 24/7, joy 24/7. When I don't want to have to try to figure everything out, that's joy for me. But when I'm trying to ponder and figure it out and fix it, and it's like, wait, I fixed myself into a corner. Like, how in the world did I get here? I thought I was figuring it out. I thought I was doing all the right things and making all the right moves, but then I ended up in a corner like, wait, this is not my existence. And so when we remove those barriers of having to be right, having to have the right answer, um, and getting to just being, to just flowing in the existence of who we are. I looked up one day and I had a house. I looked up another day and I had a wonderful job. Looked up another day and I looked back and I had all these students that I taught that many of them still try to keep in contact with me, or a handful of them, I should say. I could not plan any of this. And so, whereas I used to call myself a planner, anyone that knows me is like, Corey's going to plan something, he's going to do it. I realized that I couldn't plan to be in this house. I couldn't plan to have the jobs that I had. I just had to be in the moment to get there. Now, I'm articulating this now. Had I known this then, I would have probably saved myself some heartache, some stress, some worry. Because there was a time where I didn't have a job and I began to worry, like, wait, where's the next meal? Where's the next this? But as we move forward, those barriers, those hindrances, those blocks, they begin to fall off. One more thought I'll share. I had a vision about the light, and I saw an image of myself walking towards the light. And the question came to me, not me asked the question, but the question came to me from within, that said, what happens the closer you get to the light? And I kept looking at that image. I didn't respond right away. Kept looking at that image, and it was getting closer and closer and closer and closer to the fact of it became engulfed by the light. So when I saw that, I said the answer to that question of what happens the closer you get to the light, you begin to look like the light. And so as we take this journey together, we're going to start looking like the light, y'all. That's what makes us one. And it's not defined by anybody's form. It's not defined by anybody's put you in this box. The light has to look like this. No, the light has come. And the light don't have to announce itself. It's a reminder from within. And as we become inquisitive, as we look aside, like there's a passage in the Bible, call it the Book of Christ, that talks about seeing a burning bush and how the individual that walked by the burning bush, he said the individual looked aside and inquired, what is this? And so that's what I'm hopeful that we'll do is you'll inquire about all the things like you'll say, what is this? Who is this brother, Jacob Corey Gold? Who does he think he is? Well, I'm your brother. I'm your friend. I'm your cousin. I'm your family. I am one with you, and I'm excited to be on this journey. So let's continue to walk towards the light together. Grace.